They sat across the room from each other, one in military uniform, the other in an Indonesian shirt he got as a gift from the government. For a single moment they were in sync, a shared nod, a silent understanding. Then came the question, the one nobody was supposed to ask. And in a split second, everything was chaos. Before I tell you what really caused that argument between Peter Obi and Traoré, tap that subscribe button to stay on the storytelling side of YouTube. The All African Progress Forum was the last place anyone expected to see Peter Obi and Ibrahim Traoré in the same room. One was the defiant voice of democracy, soft-spoken, surgically logical, a man who had become a symbol for patient hope in Nigeria. The other, a military captain in boots, who tossed out foreign contracts and corruption alike with the same firm sweep, and didn't apologize for it. The event was supposed to be a series of panels, safe conversations, pre-approved questions, speeches with bullet points, but then the organizers did something rare. They invited both men to share a stage. No filters, no rehearsals. Some said Obi wouldn't show, that the election had broken him, that after the 2023 disappointment, he was done playing Africa's conscience. He had rehearsed nothing, no speech, no comeback, just clarity and calm. They were wrong. Obi first arrived in a modest Toyota Hilux, side slightly dented, number plates from Anambra. The moment he stepped out, the crowd erupted. Young activists, journalists, even rival politicians came forward to get a handshake with him, chanting his name. "Peter Obi," someone shouted. "He's the one they rigged out." He waved once and kept his eyes fixed on the entrance as he walked toward it. If you know Peter Obi, you'd know he believes in conversation, in difficult dialogue. He'd read Traoré's speeches, studied his policies. He didn't agree with his methods, but respected his momentum and the work he is doing in Burkina Faso. Maybe there was something to learn from him, he thought. Inside, he was ushered to the stage and had his seat quietly. A minute after he went in, 3 convoys of glossy black SUVs arrived. Armed soldiers stepped out first. Then Captain Traoré emerged, his red beret low over his eyes. He walked like a man who didn't need to hurry, because time would wait. People didn't cheer, not like Obi. They didn't know if they should. But there were murmurs. As he passed the crowd, a young Burkinabe man whispered to a friend, "This is trouble they are stirring, bringing both Obi and Traoré here." Inside the hall, the 2 men were seated at opposite ends of the stage. 2 chairs, 1 table, 2 bottles of water and juice between them. The moderator smiled nervously. "Gentlemen, let's discuss the future of Africa." For a moment, no one moved. Then Obi adjusted his mic. He spoke first. "Democracy," Obi said, "isn't perfect. In Nigeria, we've paid the price for its failures, but the answer to bad democracy isn't no democracy." He paused. "You can't point a gun at poverty and expect it to disappear." A quiet murmur rippled through the audience. Obi wasn't attacking anyone, but he wasn't softening either. When Obi finished, he sat up and leaned forward. Ibrahim Traoré spoke, "And you cannot vote out a lion when the ballot is made of paper." There was pin-drop silence. Then he continued. "In Burkina Faso, we tried for years, but the ballots were empty, not because people didn't vote, but because nothing changed when they did. You speak of democracy, I speak of urgency and action." Obi met his eyes. Calm. "So urgency justifies the gun?" "No," Traoré said, "but urgency demands action." They weren't raising voices, but everyone in that room felt the sharpness between each word. The moderator shifted, about to speak. Then a journalist stood up and said, "Captain Traoré," he asked carefully, "if elections failed in your country, what happens when they work again? Will you step down?" Traoré turned slowly to reply and said, "Let him answer first. If he'd won his election, would Nigeria be free today?" Obi looked up and replied, "Nigeria didn't vote me in for miracles," he said. "They voted me in to try." "So did we," Traoré replied, "and we were tired of waiting." The moderator didn't interrupt. He let the conversation continue. 2 of Africa's most polarizing figures were no longer debating. They were revealing. Traoré responded, "You speak of systems, but we inherited those systems from people who never believed in our future. I was tired of inheriting failure. After a moment of silence and deep reflection, seeing that Peter Obi had no counterpoint, the moderator leaned in, finally cutting through the silence. You both say you're here for the people, but the people are divided. Some love you, some fear you. How do you lead through that? And this question is directed to President Ibrahim Traoré. Traoré said, you lead anyway. You lead without needing to be loved, and you let your work defend you. Then the moderator cleared his throat, looking toward the final card in his stack. Captain, if democracy had worked for you, would you still be in uniform? Traoré looked at Obi, then said, maybe not. I guess we'll never know. The moderator thanked them, and the crowd applauded them for the beautiful debate. The debate was over. People stood up, walked out of the hall, murmuring as they left, but neither Obi nor Traoré moved. Obi sat with his legs crossed, pen tapping against his knee. Traoré adjusted his beret, eyes scanning the crowd. They sat back to talk. Obi had some questions he had to ask President Traoré, and he wasn't leaving till he got answers. Obi broke the silence. That was more than I expected. Traoré smiled faintly. I came to say what needed to be said, because we have to do some deep reflection in Africa. There are times she has to take matters into her own hands. Traoré looked out. You still believe democracy will save us? Obi answered quickly. No, but I believe we have to save democracy. Traoré's phone buzzed. He checked it briefly and said, I'll take that later, then added, let me ask you something, and don't give me the polished answer. Obi gestured. Go on. If Nigeria offered you full power, no votes, no delays, just keys to everything, would you take it? If it meant fixing the country? Obi didn't respond immediately. The question threw him off. He had never been asked that. Then, after a minute's reflection, he said, if it came without trust, without consent, no, because the moment you take power that way, it stops being yours to give back. These were two men with two different philosophies, same burden, different roads. Traoré stood, straightened his uniform. Obi reached for his jacket. He thanked Obi for having the talk and mentioned how much of a pleasure it was getting to rub minds with such a great man. Outside, debates exploded. Is Obi too idealistic for Africa's realities? Traoré's method may be tough, but it's necessary. Democracy isn't Africa's problem. Corrupt leaders are. Clips went viral, sparking intense global debates. If this story moved you, click like, subscribe, and share it with someone who still believes Africa.
Up next is the story of Tinubu and the harsh truth he heard from the Pope.